Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Public consultation on the proposed anti-political dynasty measure continues in Cagayan de Oro City. The CBCP and other church-based groups are also proposing that only 2 family members be allowed to hold elective posts.
Malacanang confirms President Marcos will meet with Naga City Mayor Leni Robredo this weekend.
Vice President Sara Duterte's 4th impeachment complaint has been transmitted to Speaker Bogie D's office.
Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto has filed a complaint before the COMELEC against former mayoral candidate Sara Diskaya.
First in the news, public consultations on the controversial anti-political dynasty bill continue. For updates, let's bring in mobile journal Amy Atienza reporting live from Cagayan de Oro City. Amy, what's happening?
Good morning, Angela Diego. Right now, iniintay pa natin na magsimula itong final leg ng public consultation. So technically, in-expect natin before na mas marami pa yung mapupuntahang provinces, pero dahil nga din sa limitations of time, na sabi din ni Representative Zia Alonto Adyong na 1 province per region na nga lang yung kanilang pupuntahan. So isa sa Luzon na nangyari sa Carmona, Cavite, sa Visayas na nangyari kahapon sa Cebu City, at ngayong araw naman ay nasa Mindanao tayo sa Cagayan de Oro City para nga marinig yung panig ng ating mga kapatid tungkol nga sa kung ano dapat ang isulong or yung ano ba dapat yung nakapaloob doon sa anti-political dynasty bill. So ngayon, titingnan natin at aabangan natin yung magiging opinyon ng mga kasama natin dito na mga estudyante, guro, maging mga miyembro ng local government units para nga makita kung anong degree of consanguinity, maging yung level of affinity na dapat sundin ng mga mambabatas, lalong-lalo na dahil may 24 versions nga nito sa Kamara. At titingnan din natin, syempre, kung may maidadagdag pa ba or revisions na kinakailangan para nga maipasa na ito ang target nila before the Lenten break para nga daw maisama ito sa State of the Nation address ng ating Pangulo.
Amy, based sa current, sa pagsasama mo sa kanila, no? Ano ang mukhang favorable sa mga constituents with regards to which level of degree of consanguinity and affinity ang napupusuan ng mga tao?
Actually, Diego, medyo 50-50 dahil kung babalikan natin yung sa Cavite, marami doon yung medyo tumututol pa na isulong yung anti-political dynasty bill dahil parang para sa kanila okay naman daw sa kanilang province yung pamamalakad ng political dynasties, yung mga members ng political dynasties. Doon naman sa narinig natin kahapon dito sa Cebu naman, marami yung pumapabor na isulong na yung anti-political dynasty bill. Ang karamihan ng narinig natin nasa 2nd degree of consanguinity lang yung nararapat dahil nga reasonable naman na daw ito para nga maisulong mismo yung batas. Ang kinakailangan tingnan ay yung succession din, pati yung pagiging simultaneous ng pag-hold ng possessions ng mga family members para nga may saayos na ma-implement itong anti-political dynasty bill. So yun yung nakikita natin so far, and actually sa Cebu, hindi lang yung anti-political dynasty yung pinipilit nila, pati yung impeachment ni VP Sara ay na-bring up din kahapon dun sa naging public consultation. So ngayon titingnan natin kasi itong Cagayan de Oro City, kung alam na natin malakas daw dito si Vice President Sara Duterte. So tingnan din natin yung magiging insights ng ating mga kapatid natin dito sa Cagayan de Oro City. Pero yun, so far, marami ang sumusulong talaga for the 2nd degree of consanguinity para sa anti-political dynasty bill.
Ang isa sa nakikita nila din na problema dito sa diskurso na ito ay dun sa barangay level. Because sabi nga nila medyo maliit yung populasyon noon at talagang kumbaga sila rin magkakamag-anak. Paano nila i-address yung issue na yon?
Actually, Angela, nakita rin yan ng ating mga kongresista na itong anti-political dynasty bill, syempre kinakailangan ding tutukan yung mga local government units natin. At yun nga, tinitingnan din kasi and nasasabi na kaya nga nararapat lamang ay 2nd degree of consanguinity para nga makater din itong mga ganitong bagay dahil hindi lang naman sa mga provinces na pinuntahan natin, nagiging issue itong political dynasty. Syempre, nasa ibang lugar lugar din, maging sa Luzon, different provinces in Luzon, nakikita natin yan. So, technically, pag-uusapan pa rin yan ng ating mga mambabatas at syempre titingnan kung ano nga bang degree of consanguinity, paano ito may susulong, lalo-lalo na dahil gusto talaga nila itong isulong dahil nga din sa priority ito ng ng administrasyon daw ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. So yan pa yung iwi-weigh-in nila after nitong public consultations, magkakaroon pa rin naman sila ng hearings, syempre pagpupulong para nga makater din at ma-address yung ganitong mga issue.
And aside from Cagayan de Oro, Bulacan, and Cebu, if I'm not mistaken, saang lugar pa magkakaroon ng public consultation?
Well, nagkaroon, Angela, ng public consultation sa Cavite, sa Cebu City at Cagayan de Oro City. Ngayon, walang schedule at sinasabing ito na daw siguro yung final leg ng public consultation dahil nga din sa oppression of time na sinasabi ni Chairperson ng House Suffrage and Electoral Reforms, si Alonto Adyong, na yun nga, medyo kulang na raw sa oras at kinakailangan na nga rin daw pag-usapan na ng Kamara para nga daw before Lenten break ay matapos na itong anti-political dynasty bill. At yun nga, sa panayam din natin kay Congressman Egay Erice, nasabi niya na hopefully maging same yung timeline ng Congress pati ng Senate pagdating dito sa pagpapasa at pagsusulong ng anti-political dynasty bill. So far, wala na tayong inaasahan pang public consultations. Pero yung mga position papers naman ay hinihingi din ng House Suffrage and Electoral Reforms Committee. So doon sa mga naka-attend din ng public consultations, maaari naman daw magpasa ng position papers para nga din mapagdiskusyonan nila ito pagdating ng kanilang mga pagpupulong.
And Amy, yung position papers na yan will be used to redraft the 24 versions into one consolidated one na acceptable sa lahat?
Iko-consolidate nila yan. Siyempre, titingnan nila yung naging posisyon ng majority ng mga dumalo nga sa public consultation and titingnan nga kung anong kinakailangan maging dun sa mga succession at sa pag-hold ng positions, may it be local or national positions. Yan yung titingnan ng komite sa Kamara para nga yung doon sa 24 versions makita talaga nila kung ano yung dapat. And syempre, makita nila yung best aspects of all the 24 versions at mailagay nga nila sa anti-political dynasty bill.
All right. Thank you for that. Mobile Journal Amy Atienza reporting from Cagayan de Oro City.
Now, church-based groups are proposing that only 2 family members be allowed to hold elective positions. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, the Catholic Educational Association, Simbahang Lingkod ng Bayan, and Caritas Philippines suggested that one relative hold a local office and another a national post with no overlapping jurisdictions. They also recommended barring close relatives up to the 4th civil degree from simultaneously or consecutively occupying elective positions. The groups called for closing loopholes such as substitution, rotation, or position swapping, including for party list representatives.
Now let's talk more about this with Father Jerome Ceciliano, Executive Secretary of the CBCP Episcopal Commission on Public Affairs. Father, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, Father, maybe you can shed some light on the wisdom. Bakit po naglabas po ang CBCP? Why are church-based groups pushing the limit to political dynasties to only 2 family members in elective positions?
Well, for one, giving you a context, hindi naman talaga yung CBCP as a whole conference. May binanggit naman dyan na commission.
Right.
Yung commission na yon ang siyang nag-aral, nagsaliksik, in-evaluate, nakipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang mga sektor. Kaya they came up with that. So it's not accurate to actually say that the whole conference is pushing for it. But perhaps we can say that sinusuportahan naman ng conference kung ano man yung ginawa ng commission.
But do you think, Father, at this time, malabing problema binibigay ang political dynasties, and you think we really need to change the setup of how mga kamag-anak take up positions simultaneously in government?
Well, this is my personal view, and I do believe that political dynasty is really affecting the conduct of governance and managing the affairs of our country. Kasi andyan dyan yung corruption, of course. Kung halimbawa magkakamag-anak yan, definitely, paano pa yung check and balance?
That's right.
So what we can see here, parang collusion na yan.
Right.
Kasi syempre, yung anak sa katatay, magkukontrahan ba yan? Yung mag-uncle, magkukontrahan ba yan? So, kitang-kita naman, kahit noon pa, problematic talaga yung political dynasty. And I do believe that we have to do something about it now.
Pero how confident are you po, Father, that this will be passed? Sabi nga po na aming mobile journal na ang goal po dito ay maisama sa State of the Nation address ng Pangulo this year. Pero ang dami po ng discussions. They've been to a lot of provinces para po sa mga consultations. But how confident are you na maipapasa po ito knowing that lahat po din naman ang nasa Congress at sa Senate ay galing po sa political dynasty?
Sorry, I don't even think that we should talk about confidence regarding that bill. Pero palagay ko, just to give a fair assessment of it, at least pinag-uusapan yan ngayon in both houses of Congress. So noon naman kasi hindi naman napag-uusapan yan, wala naman din tayo napapakinggan na kumbaga din tinatalakay nila. Pero dahil nga nagkaroon tayo dito ng napakalaking issue ng corruption at nakita nila yung connection ng corruption at saka dito sa political dynasty, and so therefore, maaaring napilitan yung mga mambabatas natin na sila nga ay mag-usap-usap na. Pero ang pakiusap ko naman dito sa taong bayan ay i-treasure talaga natin yung ating mga mambabatas because kapag walang pressure na manggagaling sa publiko, palagay ko, magiging ningas kugon lang yung usapin na to dyan sa Congress.
That's right.
So we need really to look for opportunities to push for it and then pressure our lawmakers to debate on it and then possibly talagang ipasa na yung bill na yan para maging batas.
Well, so Father, in your own personal opinion, do you believe na malaking part ng corruption na nangyayari ngayon or nangyari sa atin kasaysayan is because of the checks and balances that are lost due to political dynasties?
Hindi lang political dynasty ang sanhi ng korupsyon. Kundi nakikita natin dito, isa yan sa mga kumbaga nagpapalala pa ng korupsyon. Kasi nga nung binanggit ko sa inyo kanina, yung level of collusion ng mga magkamag-anak na yan. And of course, bakit pa nila check yung bawat isa Imbes i-check nila yung bawat isa, di mag-usap na lang kung paano pa nila pauunlarin yung kanilang pamilya, di ba? So, hindi naman ito lingid sa kaalaman ng publiko. It happens. Pero yun nga lang, ang sabi natin dito ay napakalawak ng, kumbaga, extent ng corruption, napakadami din ng iba't ng causes niyan. Pero nakikita din naman natin that dynasties are actually fomenting and perhaps sabihin natin na masyado pang ini-strengthen. Yeah. Diba yung mga sistema para makapagnakaw ng pera ng bayan.
Well, of course, sabi nyo nga po na mabuti na pag-uusapan nito, nagkakaroon ng debate, nagkakaroon ng consultation. Pero this has happened before na rin po, no? That's why may mga a lot of versions na po sa Senate. I think 6 versions na po sa Senate, tapos X number of versions din sa Congress. And some groups also are calling na sinasabihan po nila ang mga lawmakers natin ngayon na kayo naman yung mag-sacrifice. Parang all these years, ang taong bayan nagsasacrifice. This time around, ay kayo naman ang mag-sacrifice. So do you think talagang by this time around, talagang nape-pressure na yung ating mga lawmakers to pass this law?
The extent of publicity that it is generating right now is different from where it was before. Kasi mas matindi ngayon yung pag-uusap Tsaka sabi ko nga may pressure pa ngayon sa public. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, ito na yung right timing para mag-create talaga sila ng ganyang batas. Kung meron man niya na i-file noon, hindi naman masyado na pag-usapan Pero yung init ng ulo ng tao, yung galit ng tao dahil may corruption, and then ngayon, hindi lang isa, dalawa, tatlong mambabatas ang nag-file niyan. Sabi ko nga, ito yata yung perfect timing para maipasa na yan. Pero ako din naman din nangangamba dahil kapag medyo naging malabnaw na yung pagtutok ng publiko dyan sa usapin na yan, baka katulad nga nung dati ay makalimutan na ulit siya. Kaya dapat sustained
That's right.
yung pressure na ibinibigay ng publiko.
And having said that, ano po kayang dapat gawin ng public to help push for the passage of this bill para hindi po matulog itong usapin na ito?
Well, nakikita natin, di ba, sa mga rallies na ginagawa, yan ang isa sa mga kumbaga isinisigaw, ipasa na yung dynasty bill. And of course, hindi lang naman tayo magkakaroon ng rally araw-araw, but kahit yung pagpe-pressure sa kanilang mga mambabatas, may mga organized groups naman kasi tayo, di ba?
Yes,
Na sulatan nila yung kanilang mambabatas. And then perhaps we talk about this in the media. Okay, pati yung mga social media platforms, iparating natin yung ating paghahangad na magkaroon ng ganitong batas. And then yung simbahan din, siguro ay patuloy na mag-exert din ng, pamamaraan para maipahayag sa publiko yung pagtutol natin sa dynasty. So things like this, kapag pinagsama-sama mo yan, palagay ko magkakaroon ng awareness yung ating mga mambabatas that the public is right now, very well aware that there is a need for an anti-political dynasty law.
That's right, Father. And sabi mo kasi the public plays a big role. We can pass all the laws we want. We could amend all the laws we want. Pero until the public also, there's no change within us sa taong bayan, wala rin mangyayari. So how do you think we should, as a public, engage with each other to explain to each other, Father, the ills of political dynasty? Kasi dapat may pagbabago din sa tao
Well, yung mga forum, pwedeng i-organize yan. Alam ko, napakarami mga civil society organizations ngayon na nagkakaroon ng ganitong mga pag-uusap-usap, tinatalakay, ina-assess, ina-evaluate, at saka nagdumungkahi kung ano yung mga dapat pang ilagay dyan sa bill na yan. I know for a fact that yung mga civil society organizations ngayon ay very active in their campaign against political dynasty. So palagay ko, sa mga simbahan din, ako galing na simbahan, mag-organize din ng ganitong mga forum para i-encourage natin yung ating mga constituents, mga parishioners, na to really be mindful about the need for such a law.
Okay, so we recognize po na marami po talagang diskusyon pagdating dito sa anti-political dynasty. Sabi nga po ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, it's not one size fits all. Like for example, sa barangay level, may mga maliliit ang populasyon doon at in an instance, meron talagang magkakamag-anak doon na hindi mapigilan na tumakbo. No? Are you familiar, Father, doon po sa iba't ibang version na nakalatag po ngayon sa Kongreso or sa Senado? And I'm asking this we would like to know kung anong version po doon yung nakikita nyo po practical na maipasa.
There is no perfect version. Kaya nga iba-iba yan dahil iba-iba pananaw ng mga nag-file yan. Ang pinakamagandang gawin dyan, ipunin lahat ng mga versions na yan at magkaroon nga ng pagdidiskusyon sa congressional hearing, pakinggan din yung input ng ilang mga labas dyan sa both houses of Congress, and I'm talking about yung mga civil society organizations, other stakeholders, concerned groups, para pagsama-samahin yan at makita kung ano yung pinakamagandang version. Kasi kung pipili lang tayo ng version na ganito, galing kay Senator ganito, o kay Congressman ganito, perhaps it's not enough. Kaya sabi ko, two heads are better than one. So pag sama-samahin yan, hanapin natin kung ano talagang pinakamaganda. Kasi we cannot just claim that this version is better than the other version. Andyan na yan marami na silang kumbaga versions hindi naman ako aware kung ano yung mga versions yan, kung anong nilalaman yan. Media lang naman na nagsasabi na ganito, ganyan. So, I need to say, let's see together and then look for better ways and means to put them together para we come up with the best version that will benefit the people.
Right. Well, Father, no, tanong ko na lang din po if okay with you kasi marami po mga critics ngayon na nagsasabi na bakit parang political intervention daw po ito sa hanay ng simbahan. What about separation of church and the state? Ano po yung masasabi niyo po regarding that?
Like, we should not even talk about that separation of church and state kapag nagsasalita ang simbahan kasi out of the picture yan eh. Kumbaga ano yan eh. Ayun yung separation of church and state kapag ini-invoke yan eh. Hindi naman yan valid para sabihin na wag na magsasalita simbahan. And besides,
And you're part of this country as well.
Not only that, para sa kaalaman ng publiko, ang Congress mismo ang nagtatanong sa simbahan eh.
Yes.
Kinoconsult din ang simbahan eh. So,
That's true.
this is not known to the public, but we are consulted. Alam mo ba, kapag may mga hearing dyan sa mga batas, ang ginagawa ng mga committees na yan, sumusulat para mag-request ng position paper, ano ba yung pananaw ninyo. That's part of the, that's part of the policy making process. So you consult the different stakeholders to put in their idea, their opinion, their studies as well. Kaya yung mga nagsasabi na naman yan actually, wala silang nalalaman tungkol sa meaning ng separation of church and state.
Right. Okay, as always, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. We appreciate your time and effort. Father Jerome Siciliano, Executive Secretary of the CBCP Episcopal Commission on Public Affairs. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Alright, Malacanang rejects former President Rodrigo Duterte's claim of kidnapping, reiterating that his transfer to the International Criminal Court was carried out lawfully. Maricel Halili has the report.
Malacanang pushed back at Rodrigo Duterte's claim that he was forcibly taken so the International Criminal Court can detain him. This was one of the former president's reasons in a signed notification dated February 17 on why he does not want to attend his confirmation of charges hearing set from February 23 to 27. Duterte said he does not recognize the foreign court's jurisdiction over him, as he was kidnapped, pushed into a jet, and brought to The Hague in the Netherlands. He claimed that the so-called kidnapping was facilitated by the office of President Bongbong Marcos. But for Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro, the government just acted in accordance with Philippine laws.
Magandang araw. Ayon po sa batas. RA 9851, maliwanag ang sinasabi sa Section 17 na kapag ang isang kaso o isang complaint ay dinidinig na sa isang state o international tribunal or court, maaari pong i-dispense with na ng gobyernong ito ang anumang pag-iimbestiga at hayaang magpatuloy ang pag-iimbestiga sa nasabing state or international tribunal. Meron din pong residual obligation ang administrasyon na ito upang ipatupad ang dating napagkasunduan na nung tayo pa ay miyembro ng ICC o ng Rome Statute.
Castro also brushed aside suggestions that Vice President Sara Duterte's political plans could affect her father's case before the ICC. The VP announced on Wednesday, February 18, that she is running for president in 2028. The palace also denies feeling threatened by Duterte's declaration that it is now exploring common grounds even with known political opponents. This speculation was fueled by a social media post by Naga Mayor Leni Robredo, which showed preparations for the president's visit to her city. Yusek Castro did confirm that Marcos will indeed meet with Robredo on Saturday, February 21st, for a flood mitigation project. The palace press officer, however, downplayed suggestions that the meeting could signal political realignments ahead of the 2028 elections. She likewise brushed off speculations that the administration is courting Robredo. The former VP and the president, of course, were rivals during the 2022 national elections.
Ikaw naman, nagsuot lang ako ng pink pero naagad mali siya. Wala po. Ang kulay na sinuot ko ngayon ay wala pong kaugnayan sa anumang politika. Wala pong anumang update kung nililigawan ng sino man dahil ang sabi nga po natin kahapon pa ay wala pa po sa isipan ng Pangulo at ng administrasyon na ito ang patungkol sa pamumulitika o humanap ng sino mang kandidato para sa 2028. Tutok po ng Pangulo ay trabaho ayun po, ayusin ang mga issue patungkol sa baha at ang pag-angat po ng ekonomiya ng bansa.
When asked if other matters would be discussed between the two leaders, Castro replied,
Yan ang abangan nyo.
as for the possibility of forging alliances against Duterte in 2028, Castro maintained that no such discussions have taken place. But this crossing party line scenario was further charged by this announcement.
Magkakaroon po ng bagong NBI director sa katuohan po ni Atty. Melvin Matibag.
Castro did not disclose the reason behind Matibag's appointment, but emphasized that the decision was within the president's prerogative. Former Duterte ally Matibag will replace NBI Acting Director Lito Magno.
Una-una, masasabi natin bakit niya in-appoint or i-appoint. Nandun po yung tiwala. Nakitaan po niya ang si Atty. Melvin Matibag ng maaaring pagtiwalaan. Maaaring magtrabaho para sa gobyerno. Pero kung ano yung pinaka-reason, hindi pa po nasasabi sa akin in details.
Matibag was appointed acting cabinet secretary in March 2022, or during the final months of the Duterte administration. He was a known defender of Digong and his family until 2023, when he resigned from his post as Secretary General and later as a member of PDP Laban, the political party that brought Duterte to Malacanang in 2016. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
Joining us now is Edmund Tayao, President and CEO of Political Economic Elemental Researchers and Strategists, or PEERS. Sir, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone.
All right.
Napaka-eventful this week.
Napaka-eventful. I don't wanna sound chismoso. I don't wanna sound hinala. Pero ano ang read nyo, sir, sa scheduled official business pagkikita ni PBBM at Mayor Lenny?
Well, anything is possible, Angelo, to be honest, no? Of course, pagdating sa paggugobyerno, siyempre may kasamang politika yan. So we can only second guess what other matters can be discussed, no, during the meeting. We have to take note that in politics, there are no permanent friends, sabi nga nila, only permanent interest. So, and then there's also a saying, no, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, in other words, everything is possible, and Mayor Lenny has been visited as well by the vice president, no, especially during the midterm elections. So, in other words, there's there's always a possibility that political interest will be discussed during the encounter.
But how critical, sir, is VP Lenny's position right now in terms of they say siya daw ang pwedeng maging swing vote because medyo tight ang numbers ni PBBM camp and the Duterte camp, and wherever the pinks will sway may be a big help to any camp.
The numbers of the so-called pink, no? Actually, nagpauso naman ng pink na yan, etong mga DDS
That's
din.
right,
no?
that's right.
Mahilig silang maglagay ng mga branding. But let me say that this group is very much identified with the name Aquino, no, and the same alliance that was formed by the Liberal Party before, no. So in other words, having said that, parang Marcos and Duterte lang yan, merong bailiwick, no. So sa madalit sabi, there's a constant base of support, no, as far as that particular group is concerned, and therefore. If the assumption is Mayor Lenny is the assumed symbol of that faction, of that base of support, then the endorsement or the support of the good mayor can be considered, no, as a way to convince, no, their base support to swing support to whichever group successfully courts them.
It's interesting that you said that. We also spoke with Professor Clarita Carlos yesterday and another analyst the other day, and most of them are saying, in essence, yes, the Duterte bloc is a very strong bloc, but in essence, in the current political landscape, there are really two tested and solid bases right now, which is still the Aquinos and the Marcoses at this point. So do you still believe ganun pa rin ang landscape ngayon? Hindi pa masyadong tested the DDS on its own?
Alam mo, nagbabago yung landscape, Angelo, no? Palaging nagbabago yan, hindi yan constant. Ang hindi nagbabago siguro ang sinasabi nila, nila Dr. Carlos is etong mga identified groups, no? They will always have a base of support. But whether or not that base of support remains as it is, as it was before, medyo alanganin na. If you remember, for example, ang ipinagyayabang ng mga Duterte noong 2022, mas maraming boto ang pangalawang pangulo, ano? At hanggang 2023, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, no, ang mga public approval ratings, no, has registered her to about 70, even 80%, if I'm not mistaken, no? Pero pag tinignan mo ngayon consistently, no, nasa 30%. So kung susumahin mo, no, kahit na nananatili siyang positive, ang laki ng ibinaba niya, no? Wala na siya doon sa 50% mark, which means 7 out of 7 out of 10 voters, no, can be considered as either being with the Marcoses or the Aquinos or undecided.
Yes.
No, that's that's why probably tamang-tama itong suot ko. Yun yung gray
Area, the gray zone.
natin, no? That's the great. Now, apart from that, whether we like it or not, medyo mabigat ang bagahe ng pangalawang pangulo. So kahit pa sabihin natin na may base of support siya, kasi yung tanong mo kanina kung malakas pa din sila, hindi ba nagbabago? Sa tingin ko napakalaki ng ibinago, Angelo. Lalong-lalo na sunod-sunod itong mga pangyayari. Lahat ng kaalyado niya nabansagang senador, no? So whether we like it or not, nag-i-stick yung imaheng yun. In fact, when I was asked kung ano sa tingin ko why she declared this early, ang assumption ko is siguro naisip na ng pangalawang pangulo na magandang pagkakataon to na finally sagutin niya yung mga issue, kasi ilang beses na Angela na tinanong siya, no, tungkol sa West Philippine Sea. Alam natin ang isinagot niya dyan. That's not her job. That's the DFA's job, and that her brother has already spoken about it. She was asked about was this the espionage activities of China, if I'm not mistaken, and anything related to China for that matter. And ang usual na sagot is next question, please. This has gone so many times, no? And even the allied political leaders of the Vice President, halatang-halata mo na maka-China, no? So sa madalit sabi, pagka binalikan natin yung mga surveys before, at ang lumalabas napakalaking issue ito para sa mga botante, kung finally, no, the Vice President can show that she's actually no other country's lucky, no, but she's really herself, and that she's for the interest of the Filipino, then I suppose that she can recover significantly with that, no. But precisely that's the question, kasi ang dami ng okasyon, no, na alam mo, ilang beses tayong ginipit, ilang beses na ang tawag dito, talagang halatang-halata mong sinasadipit yung mga barko natin, naputulan ng daliri, hindi pala Coast Guard yun, no? I was told the Navy personnel yun. Perhaps we can check that, no? And nung makalawa lang, no, may nahuli na naman na Chinese sleeper agent, no?
Yeah, yung Mongolian spy daw.
Mag-aaral daw ng pagkapiloto. Piloto na pala from no less from the from the People's Liberation Army of China. And I think a month ago, another sleeper agent was also arrested in Bicol, no? At hanggang dulo, pati family, pati Pogo, wala tayong nadidinig sa kanila, no? Lalo na sa pangalawang pangulo pagdating sa issue na yan. So I suppose well, the Vice President is was this seasoned, no, political leader, no? And I suppose alam niya na whether she likes it or not, she has to settle, no, this issue once and for all.
Right. But we're talking about Vice President, since we're talking about Vice President Sara Duterte, what can you say about her announcement the other day, no? Her intention to run for the presidential election in the 2028 elections. Yung timing, of course, it's also a question. What are your thoughts on that?
Yun nga yung sagot ko dyan, Angela, no? Which is very much related to your previous question, whether there are still bases. There are still bases, but alam mo, shifting sands yan eh, no? Siguro pwede nating sabihin na yung mga established names already, like the Marcoses, Aquino, and now the Dutertes, meron talagang base support yan. Sabihin na lang natin na 10-20 yan, no? But for them to be 30, 40, 50, yan yung mga nakukuha nila from the previous undecided, no? Now, having said that, what do I think about the reason why she announced this early? Well, yun na nga, baka naman naisip na ng pangalawang pangulo na meron, this is the best opportunity for her to settle so many issues, including the allegations, no? Pending still allegations that she remains unable to answer, no, yung sa impeachment, no? At actually ang daming na hostage dito, Angela, no, pati Supreme Court, which used to be free from partisanship, and now obvious, no? Na ang tawag dito, pabor sa kanila yung decision. And the reason why I'm saying this is because these are very important incidents and events. And take note that even the legal luminaries are one in the same in their opinions as far as the Supreme Court decision is concerned. But nonetheless, no, the impeachment case is still there. And we can see it in a different light, no? That makakaganda itong decision ng Supreme Court because this time around, the House of Representatives can no longer just decide on the basis of numbers, no? But they really have to weigh the evidences presented before they can rule on whether to proceed with the impeachment or not. So I think the reason why she declared early is precisely. She may probably, and I'm really hoping that she sees this declaration as an opportunity to finally put to rest many of the a long list of allegations to her.
But Professor, having said that po, no, I think announcement is different from accountability. So paano po yun?
Hindi naman siya different kasi yung announcement parang sinasabi mo you're already officially opening yourself no? So sa madalit sabi, kaya ako binanggit itong mga issue na ito kasi nung siya ay pangalawang pangulo lang, yun lang yung titulo niya, hindi pa siya deklarado na kandidato sa pagkapangulo, pwede pa niyang sabihin na hindi ko trabaho yan, no? So, in other words, I'm not the person to ask when it comes to that issue. But if you're running for president, you're aiming to be no less than commander-in-chief. Aba, fair game na. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng issue na may kinalaman sa bansa, kailangan maitanong at kailangan masagot niya. So, yung declaration is very relevant to accountability in this regard because you would like to measure the capacity, and the qualification of the one offering, or let us say, and emphasize applying to hold the top job of the government.
Alright, sige, marami pa tayong gusto itanong but unfortunately, we don't have much time. Sa susunod po ulit, pag po kayo ay libre ulit, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and of course your insights.
Salamat.
Professor Edmund Tayo, President and CEO of Pierce. Good morning. Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
House Secretary General Cheloy Garafil confirmed that the fourth impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte has been transmitted to Speaker Bogie D's office. Here's the report.
The fourth impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte has been transmitted to the office of the House Speaker. Lawyer Nathaniel Cabrera filed the complaints on Wednesday, which was endorsed by House Deputy Speaker Paulo Ortega and Manila 6th District Congressman Benny Abante. Cabrera's complaint cites several grounds, including culpable violation of the Constitution, betrayal of public trust, graft and corruption, and bribery and other high crimes. It also included VP Sara's threat against President Bongbong Marcos and alleged misuse of over 612 million pesos in confidential funds. Abante said the key difference from the first three complaints is the affidavit of Duterte's alleged bagman Ramil Madriaga.
We're not talking about 2028, no. This is about 2026, about whether the Vice President remains fit to hold the second highest office in the land. Candidacy announcement do not erase accountability. Running for president is not a defense to grave allegations. It is precisely why accountability must be faced squarely and promptly. Dapat harapin po niya to sapagkat taong bayan po ang apektado rito.
Speaker Boji D has until March 2 to include Duterte's 4 impeachment complaints in the plenary order of business. After that, the complaints must be referred to the House Justice Committee within 3 session days. Once this is done, the impeachment proceedings against the Vice President are officially considered initiated.
It should be a welcome part also for the Vice President because only through a proper impeachment process will they be able to actually present their perspective or present their view or defend themselves for that matter.
Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto has filed an election offense complaint against Sara Diskaya before the Commission on Elections. The complaint alleges violations in Diskaya's statement of contributions and expenditures or SOSE, which declared only around 895,000 pesos in campaign expenses, far below what Soto's team claims was actually spent. Soto also claimed that omissions in Diskaya's sworn report could amount to material misstatements, potentially exposing her to criminal liability.
Tingin ko ito naman yung tamang timing. Before elections, ayoko talaga mag-file, baka sabihin politically motivated, kung before elections ko ginawa. Sa totoo, ayoko na rin gawin to, no? Kasi nakakaabala din. Pero sa atin kasi, ang gusto natin, pag sa lungsod Pasig, kailangan sumunod ka sa batas. Kailangan sumunod ka sa election law. Kung sinabing kailangan mo i-declare lahat ng gastusin mo, dapat i-declare mo ng maayos.
Mayor Vico previously filed a separate perjury complaint questioning Diskaya's eligibility to run for mayor, citing her continued use of a British passport after submitting her candidacy papers.
Sa akin po, hindi na lang ito tungkol kay Diskaya lamang o sa team nila eh. Para sa akin po, ito po ay statement na lungsod ng Pasig, dapat sumunod tayo sa batas. Darating ang barangay elections ngayong taon. Diba? Mensahe to sa mga nagnanais maging kapitan, kagawad, sumunod kayo. Ganun din, pagdating ng 2028, kahit sino pwedeng tumakbo.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Various groups are set to mark the 40th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution on February 25 with coordinated protests. Organizers say participants will gather at key EDSA sites for masses, concerts, and demonstrations expected to draw more than 30,000 people. The mobilization will highlight concerns over the alleged misuse of public funds, including issues tied to flood control projects. Authorities say at least 11,000 police personnel will be deployed, with the NCRPO on full alert beginning February 21. With us now on the show is Tindig Pilipinas co-convener Kiko Aquino D. Kiko, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for having me po, and good morning to everyone listening to us today.
Alright, kamusta po ang ating preparations para sa 3rd trillion peso march sa February 25?
Maayos naman po. So, kakatapos lang po ng walkthrough po natin dito sa People Power Monument. sinanalyze lang po natin yung locations ng specific items around the stage, yung magiging daloy ng programa on Feb 25, and all systems go na po. So we're looking forward to the day itself.
We'd just like to clarify, Kiko, some things. No? There are other groups who believe in the same thing that you guys are fighting for, pero ang difference nila is they belong to the other side of the political fence, meaning the Marcos side. No, how do we go about this? Will there be a convergence? Will they have their own areas?
Well, I didn't quite hear what you said there. You said the Marcos side po. I'm
Yeah,
not
the
sure if
Marcos
we,
side,
we do have the same. I don't think we have the same
No,
beliefs,
I mean,
to be frank,
with
but,
regards to the anti-corruption calls, they have the same, and they would like, some groups have said that on that same day, they would like also to protest against the corruption. But, of course, may pagkakaiba kayo with regards
yun po.
to
So,
other
kung
things.
anong side po yan, no?
Yeah.
I think yung patakaran naman po ng Trillion Peso March ay walang kulay naman yung corruption.
Okay.
Pero kung ano man pong panawagan na pasok sa ating constitution ay papayagan. So kung ang panawagan po natin ay halimbawa, impeach Marcos, impeach Duterte, resign Marcos, resign Duterte, ay hindi yun po yung main call ng program, pero
Okay.
pasok naman po yan sa freedom of expression ng mga dadalo. Ang bawal lang po ay yung direktang paglabag sa Constitution. So, specifically, bawal po yung anumang calls for violence sa araw na yun. Bawal po yung anumang calls na naka-address sa ating armed forces dahil dapat civilian authority over the military pa rin tayo. Tsaka bawal din po ang anumang panawagan for any unelected body to take power. So kung revolutionary government man yan or yung Transition Council, mas malabo po yung implications dito. Pero to be safe, we're also discouraging those kinds of calls
Okay.
po.
Ilan po yung inaasahan nating dadalo dito sa March na ito?
Ayun po, we're looking at a crowd similar to November 30 po. So, ang estimate po natin dyan ay mga nasa 20 to 30,000. But again, this is the first Trillion Peso March na gagawin on a working day. Dahil nga po, special working holiday yung People Power Anniversary ngayon. So, we're ready for all contingencies po. Kung sakaling mas konti po yung dadalo dahil may ibang commitment sa araw na iyon,
Yeah.
we're ready for that. Pero kung sakaling mas maraming dadalo rin, handa rin naman po kami along with our preparations with the QC Department of Order and Safety and the QCPD.
Okay, so one of the key demands of this march, according to your interviews, is yung, of course, passage of legislation for a body that would have more power to investigate corruption other than the ICI,
That's right.
which is ICI is I don't know what's happening with ICI right now. Can you tell us more about this law that you are pushing for?
Well, it seems even the president doesn't know what's going on with the ICI, no? Pero yung tinutulak ko natin, we want the body to have a mandate independent of Malacanang, no? So sana fix yung budget nito, and then even if the body sees fit to investigate, say, the president for the allegations against him based on, for example, the testimonies of Zaldico or the text messages that were brought up by Representative Leviste. We need, while we don't take these at face value, we need the body where the veracity of these claims can be assessed. No? And I think because the impeachment against President Marcos was blocked at the House Justice Committee, then I think this body is the last sort of venue we can have to sort of get to the bottom of these allegations.
And Kiko, what specific powers are you looking for this body? Siyempre, we don't want a repeat of the ICI. Will it be similar to what the PCGG had?
Well, definitely, so we would want the ICI to now have contempt powers, no? So that's something that only Congress can grant the ICI, so that it can compel people to testify. But I think, especially in light of the recent allegations against President Marcos, to me the most important thing is it derives its mandate away from somewhere other than Malacanang. So it doesn't just serve at the pleasure of the president. So along with these powers, the source of the mandate is also important.
Well, since the announcement of the president sa kanya nung SONA niya last year regarding this issue, ano po ang pinaka-assessment ngayon ng Tindig Pilipinas doon sa flow of investigations, the people na naaresto na ngayon, na may pangako na big fish? Ano po yung pinaka-assessment po ninyo?
Well, siguro compared to November 30, I think there's more positive things to say, no? To be fair, no? May mga big fish na na-arrest. May dating senador, si Senator Revilla has been arrested for his association with the flood control scam, and we're seeing perhaps even incumbent senators next in line to be to have cases to have cases filed against them, to have arrests happen. So I think this is progress that should be acknowledged. But at the same time, nakita rin po natin na may ilang mga personalidad na konektado dito sa flood control na parang hindi na pinag-uusapan, no? Katulad ni Speaker Martin Romualdez, halimbawa, na hindi lang siya napag-uusapan, tsaka napakainit po yung naging pagtanggap sa kanya ng House of Representatives.
Right.
Kahit nung bumalik po siya, kahit na paulit-ulit pong lumilitaw yung pangalan niya dito sa flood control scam. So ako, ang assessment ay there's progress pero kulang pa. And masasabi po natin na may pananagutan talaga kung kahit sinong sangkot dito sa flood control scam ay haharap sa hustisya kung ano man yung relasyon niya kay President Marcos.
Well, a lot of people are asking us right now regarding the details of the trillion peso march on February 25. Any message para po dun sa mga interesadong pupunta?
Yeah, So again, tuloy-tuloy lang po yung paghahanda po namin, and we're, as with the two previous trillion peso marches, we're working very hard to make sure that the environment will be safe but also meaningful for people who want to express their anger at the sort of the progress of the anti-corruption campaign going on right now. No? So we're getting ready to have a meaningful but safe protest, as has always been the case with the trillion peso marches. So sa mga may ganitong paninindigan, magkita-kita po tayo. Nandyan na po kami from the morning onwards, pero yung main program po natin ay magsisimula ng 3 p.m. po sa People Power Monument for the 3rd trillion peso march. So hope to see people there po.
All right, we will continue to get in touch with you. Meantime, thank you so much for your time. Tindig Pilipinas co-convener Kiko Aquino D.
Yeah, thank you very much din po, and thank you to everyone who is listening today.
Thank you.
All right, in sports, Alex Ayala's impressive run at the Dubai Tennis Championships came to an end as she fell to two-time Grand Slam champion Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals. Ayala briefly rallied in the second set, winning a couple of games, but Gauff quickly regained control to secure victory in just over an hour. Before falling to Gauff, Ayala had impressed with wins over Hailey Baptiste, world number 8 Jasmine Paolini, and veteran Sorana Cirstea. Gauff will face either world number 67 Antonina Ruzic or world number 9 Elina Svitolina in the semifinals.
A new mystery thriller series is set to captivate viewers this month, bringing suspense, puzzles, and dark secrets to your screens. Mobile Journal Denise Valdesancho has the details.
Excitement is building for the upcoming mystery thriller series Project Loki, set to premiere this February 21 on Viva One and Signal Play. Based on a popular Wattpad story written by Acosi Ibarra, the series follows Loki Mendez and Lorelei Rios as they solve puzzles, investigate cases, and uncover dark secrets within the halls of Clark University. Leading the cast is Dylan Minor as the observant and mysterious Loki, alongside Marco Gallio as his brother Luther, and Jade Avanzado as Lorelei Rios, a new transferee who brings new mysteries into the story. The buzz continued during a special screening of the pilot episode held for fans ahead of its official release.
Happy kasi finally Project Loki's airing on February 21. I mean, sa trailer pa lang sobrang ganda ng mga shots, ng scenes, ng cinematography. The cast gave it all talaga.
The series also marks another directing project for Sian Lim, who is more commonly known for his work as an actor, but has been expanding his career behind the camera since his first directorial stint in 2019.
What I'm nervous about at the same time, kasi of course, pag binabasa mo, your imagination is so vivid and colorful. But when you translate it on screen, you gotta add a little bit more. So that's where, I hope na I do a good job at, and I would say I'm pretty confident.
The cast also praised the show's cinematography and set design, hoping it can help elevate local productions.
It feels like with the cinematography, there was a lot of thought put into cinematography, into set design, and so it's exciting to see how it's going to look, how people are going to like it, and hopefully it can elevate the quality of the Philippines, cinematography.
For Jade Avanzado, taking on the role also meant stepping into a character she personally connected with.
Going into it, I was a bit nervous kasi my character is meant to be a bit more introverted and she's more of a quiet observer. Through the course of playing her, I really found that we do share a lot in common, especially her willingness to see the good in people and yung empathy niya para sa mga tao at sa lahat ng mga tao na nakakasama niya.
Kapatid Denise Valdesancho, we are One News.
Uy,
Uy, may nagbabalik.
Angel.
Buddha's Belly. Yan. Maraming salamat,
Friday
Marjorie
Fair.
Tan.
And
sa
celebration
ating-
also of Chinese New Year.
Yes.
Oy, by the way, starting Monday, mawawala si Angel ng 10 days. Temporary lang. Huwag kayo magwala. Temporary. Saan ka pupunta, Angel?
Punta tayo ng The Hague.
Ba't mo iwan ang programa at ang asawa mo?
Magtatrabaho pa rin tayo. Pupunta tayo ng The Hague. Tayo magko-cover ng confirmation of charges the former President Rodrigo Duterte. And that's
paano
going to
kanila
be February
mapapanood?
23 until 27. So I will be on different broadcast programs here on One News and News 5.
Tatanong mga fans mo kung babalik ka pa daw ng programa.
Siyempre, babalik tayo, of course. And abangan po ninyo yung special coverage po ng One News, no? Regarding nga po dito sa confirmation of charges ni former President Duterte.
On behalf of News and Views, have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Ako ay magluluksa ang 10 araw.
Luksa talaga.
Magluluksa.
Thank you, Marjorie Tan ng Buddha's Belly. Parang happy si Marjorie. Alis ako, nagpadala ng
Hindi,
photo. Joke lang.
Chinese New Year eh. Chinese New Year.
Joke lang.
Alright, that wraps up today's episode. Oh, by the way, happy weekend to everyone. Okay? And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela.
Join me on Monday.
Join him. Di, kasama rin naman ako. Magla-live tayo from there. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.